You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Trump's well-unified party isn't so unified that, and it's costing the GOP everything. Based on an article by Matthew Rosa, the GOP does not have a governing majority. A majority on paper. House Republicans control the chamber, but control is not the same thing as govern. According to the source reporting, GOP leaders wanted to move a must-pass defense bill and State Department funding before the July 4 recess, and 13 Republicans blew up the plan by voting with Democrats on a procedural step. The result was not legislative momentum, but an early holiday break and a public demonstration that Mike Johnson cannot keep his own caucus in line. Trump's power is real, but it is not discipline. Trump still shapes the Republican agenda. His complaint that House Republicans should stop voting down rules came after lawmakers were already using their own leverage to force attention onto his voter-suppression package and an anti-immigration bill. That is the uglier truth inside the story. The rebellion is not against Trump's direction. It is often in service of it. This is not a party drifting away from authoritarian politics. It is a party that cannot decide which authoritarian priority gets top billing first. Johnson is not being undermined from the outside. The article leans on the familiar image of Johnson as a weak speaker. That is true, but incomplete. He is weak because he has chosen to build his authority entirely around appeasing Trump and the far right, while lacking the votes to turn that loyalty into legislation. He promised to keep Republicans in control so Trump would avoid Democratic investigations. He floated a constitutional workaround after the Supreme Court's birthright citizenship ruling. He did not get a functioning majority in return. That is not a management problem. It is the operating logic of this caucus. The real story is inter-right sabotage. The strongest misdirection in this coverage is the suggestion that the chamber's dysfunction is mainly about Johnson's inability to lead. The deeper reality is that the Republican majority is structured around mutually reinforcing sabotage. The far-right members who ignored Johnson's wishes did so while still chasing Trump's legislative demands. Leadership wanted one sequence of votes, the faction wanted another. Either way, governing lost. And the House did not just fail to pass a bill. It exposed that the right's internal power struggle now matters more than any public-facing claim about competence, discipline, or unity. Democrats are not the problem here. The 212 Democrats opposing this bloc are not the obstacle to governance. They are the only reason this mess has a visible counterweight at all. The Republicans are the ones with the majority, the speakership, the White House's demands, and the procedural machinery. Yet they still cannot reliably produce a floor vote without members defecting to the other side. That should be the headline every time this happens. Not that Congress is broken, but that the governing right cannot govern without coercion, agreements, and constant internal hostage-taking. What this reveals. This episode is a snapshot of the larger pattern. That party that treats government as an instrument of factional power, but cannot assemble stable authority to use it. Trump supplies the pressure, Johnson supplies the surrender, and the far right supplies the chaos. The public gets paralysis dressed up as strategy. The lesson is not that Republicans need better messaging or a stronger speaker. The lesson is that this coalition is organized around obstruction, punishment, and performative loyalty. When it cannot rule cleanly, it does not moderate. It lurches harder toward the same machinery, only more openly dysfunctional. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternate for today's article, with the automated voice of Labritz. Thanks for listening.